Could you, in a couple of moments, talk about the coming of the Codex and what it could possibly mean?
Now let's get to the most important question he's asked, or anyone's asked tonight, about the Kodex bill. I'll give this as briefly as I can. As you know, there's 177 countries in the world that are part of the world trade. You happen to live in one of those. I happen to live in one of those countries. Back after the second, or let's go back to the Second World War, there was a gentleman who was running the companies that made the pharmaceuticals in Germany, and also the rails to take the Jews and other unfortunate people to their death. They put him into jail. Of course, he had enough money at that point. They should have shot him through the head, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm a pacifist, you know this.
Me too.
I would have shot him through the head.
Yeah.
And bottom line is, they let him out 7 years later. He and his cohorts began a scheme that they looked back to the 1800s and looked at some control issues governments were trying to have called Kodex alimentarius at that time. They then went to the newly formed organization called the United Nations and completely bamboozled them, lied to them, and said, what we are is good guys now. We're no longer Nazis. We're good guys. And what we're going to do is we're going to help people so they don't starve, and we're going to make sure everyone gets good medicine. And this started in the 1950s. And there wasn't much activity then, because they couldn't unify the world until the 1980s and 90s, when we joined together and said we will have a world organization called free trade. What it is one big capitalist society. And nothing's wrong with capitalism. But when you do it this way, something's very wrong. Now, they have a plan that says by December 31st next year, 2009, listen closely, that all the 177 countries will be harmonized. Isn't that a nice word? We will be harmonized. The harmony that they are talking about, and you can check this by calling the World Health Organization a wing of the United Nations and ask for the book, because I've read it, and I'll tell you what the book says. That there will no longer be organic standards in countries. The World Health Organization and the Nazis will literally control organic food. They will be radiated. They will be grown, if necessary, in human feces. They can have certain levels of pesticide on it and still be called organic. And by the way, part of that, municipalities and cities worldwide in 177 countries will eventually, slowly but surely, control whether or not you can grow food. If you can grow food in your house, you have to have a permit in the future. You think I'm telling the stories, right? Check them. Check them. I challenge you to check them. The World Health Organization, in what I've read from them, said that if this is fully employed, that in the first 4 years, 2 billion people potentially will die. Because the second thing that they want to do is control all medicine. They've already done a very good job in Germany and Norway. They're right here in your government now working on this, so you know. You're asleep, I know, because we're living subhuman existences, but the fact is they're working here in your government. They're working in my government. There's 5 bills right now pending. First test case they put in America is in California they can no longer ship raw almonds out of the state of California to any 50 states. They wanted to see whether or not Americans would get up and riot. But we didn't, because we watch TV and eat, protein bars and all of this. Listen closely. Who are the 2 billion people? They're not going to be white folks spending money, I can tell you that. They're going to be black folks down in Africa. They're going to be natives down in South America. Because they want to wipe those bastards out. They're not spending a cent. Sounds pretty hard, doesn't it? Yeah. Factual statement. They want to wipe those bastards out. They're not spending a penny. And they want to uniform you. They want to make sure that they have total control, as they already have taken. I was in Ireland last year. I'll be there tomorrow lecturing. They were taking goji berries that were organic off the market. I worked with the former Minister of Health when he was banning smoking in Ireland. He was a brave man, a good man. He was the Prime Minister of it. He literally was fighting at at that point. And I was naive to what was really happening. He said, they keep coming in from the EU and telling us what we can do. They brought back on the market some herbs, some very essential herbs they took on. But they're eroding it. Europe, you're way ahead of us on this. They're taking your rights away quicker than us. But in America, a scary thing. We have, as you know, the presidential election. Thank God we won't have George Bush in the year. Anyone's better than him. They could put anyone. They could put a 10-year-old child in who has ADD. They'd be better than George Bush. Unriddled. But there was one guy who was a doctor, by the way, called Ron Paul. He was the only conservative I would have ever voted for in my life, to be honest with you. But he told the truth. He said the most damaging thing, most controversial thing that's happening in this country now is a Kodex bill. If I become president, the number one thing I'm going to do is stop this bill. Because he got it. He's a doctor. He sees what's going on. He said, what do you mean? These people aren't making enough money? They've got to get rid of health foods. They've got to get rid of all this. They've got to take total control. They already control the supplement industry, as I just pointed out to you. And let's again go through the date before I end this answer. Once again, remind you to check every word I say. December 31st, 2009 is when this will be fully employed in your country. And they will slowly but surely, as you're sleeping, erode more and more rights from you. Get the book from the World Health Organization describing this wonderful plan called the Kodex. And in that wonderful plan, they will tell you 2 billion people will probably die in the first few years. That was just a sign. And do you think the Nazis did a pretty good job in the Second World War? This makes what they did in the Second World War look like kids' stuff. That's all I can tell you. If you think that that's a vulgar statement, you better think about what your head's saying. This makes what happened in the Second World War look like kids' stuff. Then we were talking about a few million. Now we're talking about your health, your life. And we're talking about the first people to go are not you white folks. It's going to be the poor people down in the poor country. Become conscious. Become conscious. And how you become conscious about young students become political. Change your life. Gandhi taught us that. King taught us that. Mandela taught us that. Change yourself. You want things to change? Change yourself. And that's how things will change. 2 or 3 more